perfect elevation. It has these, you see these wheels right here? It actually close the hole over the wheel. It's a prototype. There's only like 2 or 3 of them in the whole United States.
Wow.
And they're awesome. It's amazing. So so we had 14,000 of those 14-inch root system plants. And we had them all planted, saturated, both banks, both sides of the banks, right down. We went right down the middle of the channel before we put water into it, and just saturated the banks with these willows. And the success rate was awesome. Well, it's the same plant. So you can see us planting them. There's the rotary head. We just load those up, and like I said, big dinosaur out there laying eggs. It's really cool. And the rate was amazing. This is only like the second growing season on these banks, something like that. I haven't been back there in a long time, but the willows are all over my head right now. Have you been out there along the creek here?
Oh, you said there something?
Yeah. So lots of willows, lots of willows. Now, what's interesting, what happened, I mentioned they did the pattern, they did the profile, but they didn't necessarily do the dimensions. The channel actually formed its own dimensions. We have a problem now with Blowout Creek causing too much sediment and bringing too much sediment into this channel. It's actually trying to migrate. But the willows here are designed to grow and hold the bank. That was the whole point. You had that fabric there hold it for the first growing season or two, but the willow roots are holding the bank now. And you can see how robust they are on both sides of the bank. And so, and they're not just one species of willows. It's everything we collected below the site, about 2 miles below the site, 3 miles, in that section of the East Fork. This is all the willows that came from it. So we didn't introduce any new species at all. It's just willows. Quickly, I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to go fast. This is Cabin Creek Airstrip. Remember I was saying how we had a problem out there. Well, we had a problem out there in 96 or 7, 98. I think it was 98. This Cabin Creek jumped its channel because they had a big dozer out there to plow this thing, this big 1,700-foot long strip, flat. And they pushed the channel over into a ditch around the top of the thing, right? Well, the channel doesn't quite like that. Every now and then it just will blow out. And so it found the airstrip, which was concave shaped over the years of airplane use and prop wash, and went right down the middle of this thing, ripped a 6-foot belly right on down the middle of this thing. And so here we are in the middle of the Frank Church, and we need to rebuild the airstrip. There wasn't a question about that. We had to rebuild the airstrip politically. We wasn't going to let it fly. We had to rebuild it. So we did it with a mechanized equipment, not motorized. This guy had, anybody know Pat Armstrong?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's Pat Armstrong. And so there's this big pair of mules. He had some airplane tires and a Fresno. And he built the Fresno up to carry, like, at most he can carry is like a third of a cubic yard or something like that. And for 6 months he ran his mules up and down, carrying a third of a cubic yard at a time to fill up that 1,700-foot long gully. And this is what he did. He filled that up, and his mules alone did the compaction for the whole thing. And it was an amazing project, So we had, this was that ditch, what it looked like before. You see the gully out there? And so we used this as a borrow site. This is where he got most of his dirt. We opened it up to make more of a channel, to give more channel dimensions. And this is kind of how it looked beforehand. And so we were bringing in wood, we were bringing in materials to actually facilitate a little bit more of the hydrology for the channel. And then we even took sod plugs, and everywhere we could, and we actually transplanted by hand and pinned them down to the banks right here. And then, remember I said those mules were out there for 6 months? And they were quarantined, right? All native grasses and a nice big mulch pile and nice big fertilizer pile. So we went out, we had a crew of 14 people, were just collecting mule shit everywhere. This big old pile, carried with a stretcher, and just covered the whole area with everything we could find native. And one growing season, all recovered. All with native material. Didn't have to seed that pot. So that's kind of, and we did collect some hawthorns and everything else, had them propagated, go back and actually planted some deep-rooted other things there too. That's hawthorn back there. And so here's where we got roads that get in the way of stream channels. And so unfortunately, channels blow out or plug up, and the road's right there, and it takes out. So here we had to keep the road, facilitate a natural channel, We diverted, this is the East Fork of the Weezer, we diverted the water around this thing and building a channel. Here we are, this is all transplanted vegetation along the bank full. We designed a bank full and a bank full width to match the channel. And redesigning a road, they have a big wall right here. Doesn't show real good, but that's our final product after we finished. This is in the late fall, everything's dormant, but this is highly plantable. So we planted quite a bit through here and provided some structures to help the channel make its meander and keep the pressure off the road. We do this every so often. We're going to be doing this out at Smith Creek, at Big Creek guard station. There's a channel of wide and full. Retorrents, this is out at Yellow Pine. We have these problems too, rain on flow. We have to go in there and put the road back. This is the county road, right? So we're helping the county actually dig out the road. It was interesting, we're trying to find the culvert. The culvert was 15 feet buried underneath this is Parks Creek. Just right before you get to Yellow Pine, just west of Yellow Pine. 15 feet deep. And when we peeled this thing off, and this was a state-of-the-art, open bottom culvert back in 1988, and it was filled with this organic mulch. That was the only thing that filled it. It wasn't sediment at all. It was like a slug of organic material. And the dynamics of a retorrent is fascinating. I can't even fathom how things get layered and pushed. And you pick up whole great massive peat pines and Volkswagen-sized boulders. Nothing stops it. But it's amazing how it segregates things. And so this thing was full of just organic matter. Didn't have any sediment in it at all. It was weird. And we couldn't even find the culvert. I mean, we had to dig 15 feet just to find the entrance to the thing. Anyway, so we built a new channel through here and had to put a temporary bridge in for a while. And we the Nespers tribe actually purchased a new bridge for the site. So we put a bridge over it. But here is the tree. You can see right before, see the little arrow here? This is the same arrow afterwards. So this is the channel we built through the debris torrent and facilitated a bridge site going into that was a lot of fun. That was about a month of work with one track hole. Yeah, it was a lot of work. These three pipes here were the old South Fork Road. This is, where the fish trap is up there on Warm Lake? This is right above it. This is Cabin Creek that used to not have any fish habitat for over 45 years. And these are three culverts we took out in 1993. And we took these three culverts out and built a natural channel around it, actually sinuosity and everything else, opening up fish habitat for the first time in 45 years. That was really cool. That was my start on the first, my first year on the force, I got to do this project. And so, what a deal. Going back there now, it's so cool to watch, look at that stuff and see, Chinook salmon spawning right there where you built that channel. That's pretty fun. 2007 fires really denuded the road. This is the South Fork Road. Places that actually burned all the needle casts are highly problematic. And you can see this over here on this edge, there's no needles left on these trees. Needles are the natural erosion control off of these fires. They fall, and it's an erosion control. It's a good locking system, right? Where you don't have that, you have big problems. And you have these big chutes here that are prone to any kind of rain event. All this material is going down in the river. And so this facilitates some kind of action to protect the infrastructure and actually the fish resources. And so we did a lot of area mulchings, but very strategically. Not like Boise would spend, because of the urban interface, they spend a lot more money on barrier work. We don't have that urban interface here. Here we're working on fish protection and the infrastructure, the road that we built. We're trying to protect that. So we were a lot scaled down barrier work, but it's really fun, interesting work to try to stabilize this. A lot of mulching, hydro seeding, aerial mulching. We went places and recontoured roads, even in the black, and they came out really well. But we had to tell the operator to transplant the material like it's green, and keep things black side up, And sure enough, the root mass was there. It just grows. And even though there's no vegetation left on top, the root mass in the live soils makes a huge difference, just a transplant. So we had skilled operators to do that. That's one of the things that we have that other forests don't, is that we have our own heavy equipment and our own operators that we've been working with for over 20 years. So lots of fun with these guys. That's the gist of the work. I do have something that would be fun to show you, and it'll only take a minute or a couple minutes. And I have another one. Okay, what's this? Oh, discard. Okay, I'm going to show you one more thing here. It's kind of fun. It's a case study. And I'm just going to go really fast because I've never shown these slides before to anyone. Hardly. This is a site on the South Fork Road. This is 1960 or something like that. And this thing was treacherous to get across. It's called the bin wall. It's kind of a fun little station. So you've been by it, you just didn't recognize it. So this has two bins to hold the total slope together. The South Fork of the Salmon River Road, Salmon River's right down there, and there's spawning habitat. This is one ugly place back in the 60s and 70s, and it's treacherous to get across. You know, we'll talk about a mud hole too. Bad spot. One of the worst spots on the whole road. And so they worked on it for years and years, trying to get toe stabilization. They built this big bin wall on it. You see this bin? So they built this big bin and had the road in here, and they had this cup trench. They keep cleaning material off. And so back in the mid 80s, they decided to go ahead and take the head cut off. The head cut, see, looked like this. You see the head cut on this thing? And there's the bin, and so they went up there. Now, these pictures aren't in order. I had 100 pictures. I had to scramble them really fast last night just to see if I could get them in order. So they're not all going to be in order. So there you go. They took the trees off, and they're going to take that angle. They're going to take all this material off to get the angle repose. See that head cut they're going to remove? We can go up there with a dozer and taking the trees off and start dozing this thing off to get angle repose. You see, there's a lot of work right there on a big, nasty slope. And so, and this is actually, mid 80s. Pulling up covers, you see, this is part of the head cut right there. And they've got, they're working it. I don't know where they did with all the dirt material. So here you are, they're reshaping the whole slope. And they're reshaping and dumping and moving the stuff. And of course, you can't keep it on site. I don't know where they put it. I'm kind of curious. But this is granitic soils. Pretty denuded. It almost looks white, right? It is white. That's probably snow there. But you see, there's no nutrients in that thing. This is a big old bedrock site, but it's decomposed granite. You can take it and crumble it with your hand, but you can't grow anything on it. Here's another big bedrock site here, but they're taking the head cut off, working it up, and so there it is, just working it. Lots of different cool pictures. And so this is after they're done. They've got. This is actually not in order, but you can see the head cut is a lot different now. Reshaped the whole slope. This is shortly after they're finished. You can see how they've got mulching projects down here and erosion blankets down here. River's right below. They're trying to keep this sediment, this big problem site off the river. Well, so they got these bins and they're trying revegetation efforts. There they are, cleaning it out again. I wanted to show you this. See how white that is? This is right after they reshaped it. They covered the whole thing with erosion blanket. Now with a big project to do. Expensive. Erosion blanket on the granitic soils on the slope. So you see that color of that? Beige? This is that big bedrock area. But this is how baby smooth that is. Without any vegetation and no hit cut. They got the shape right. But at the time, this was state of the art. Put some erosion blanket on it and seed it. So that's what they did. But what happened is that this is really too steep. It's not a really appropriate project, a treatment for that type of soils and that steep of thing. So, lots of big, beautiful photos and everything else, but it really fell apart. This was the next season. Let me show you. We go fast forward a little bit. Told you. So this is what it looked like. It basically started unraveling. They had it all. It wasn't consolidated. And so angle repose wasn't a thing. So things really started to move and unravel big time. You see, this is the erosion blankets up here, pieces of it. They tried to get some vegetation going, but it just took one good event and it really unraveled. And so that happens. It's a little bit of setback, but they still got the shape down and let the thing settle a little bit. So they had this material to deal with every year, would move. And so over time, they were able to get it stabilized a little bit more, but we always had a river of sediment going over the bin wall. And they'd plant these seedlings every year, and you can see that she's got this big old heavy bar they use the bar plant, you know, and with all these containers. So they're planting, look how denuded this is still. And this took over several years, many years. And then we'd still get all the sediment going over this bin wall. So this is the second bin that was built in 1992. But even in 1992, you see all the sediment going right on out. It goes to a culvert that would go right out to the river. So they built this second bin in 1992. This is the road reconstruction. This is about the time that I saw the slope. This is how much vegetation that was on the slope then. This is the original bin right here. So the road traffic is still down here. So they had this, these are containers that cover underneath the culvert that would fill up with sediment. And it would be like stair steps, like lattice, like a Chinese structure, you know. It's pretty cool. But anyway, we were catching sediment that was coming off the bin wall. That's kind of ice flow, but it would fill up, you know. It's kind of neat. So in 1992, all the trees looked like this. And we got to thinking, you know, why can't we get trees established here? Little bonsai trees. Mostly because it was elk and deer winter range. You know, this is why we couldn't get anything established, is because there was no wolf out there to keep them honest. And this is the first slope that would open up, and all that juicy bitter brush and all the pine seedlings and all that, you know, multiple grass seedlings would just attract all this wildlife. And so they would just hammer the slope. And you get nothing growing but, you know, these little things. And so this was 1993. It was 1993 when I saw this. We said, well, shoot, we got to like make this an exposure, get the wildlife off it first before you get into that vegetation. And so they were putting bitter brush out there, which is, you know, just nothing but ice cream to them. You know, and so then come Francis Russo. He was a jumper at the time, and I said, Francis, we need a fence around this thing. And so he took like 6 jumpers, and they put a 14-foot fence around this. See, they're not all planted yet. He's just putting postings, so he's putting a 14-foot fence and made an enclosure out of this thing. And so this is the bin wall from the riverside. You can see how big this thing is. See the fence up here just started? So he took these jumpers, and that's actually so that's the post before we put the wire in. Anyway, more pictures like that. Lots of things. So it's got a long history, right? And so we actually got a fence around it, made an exclosure out of it. Give the place a rest from the wildlife only. It's just wildlife impact. And we tried to bring in Christmas trees and anything else that we can get for organic matter on the slope. Anything that would work, anything, you know, try everything. And see that we got the hot wire fence, and it kept them out. You notice the reaction, I mean, just even 1 year later, you know. So we had this wet spot, this little seep in the middle. I said, well, shoot, let's do something with that. So we did a contour brush layer with willows and dogwoods and other things, and planted aspens and this big wet spot because it was kind of slumpy. You see how wet this is coming out off the timber lag walls? And so we're going to deal with that. This guy right here is our forest supervisor. But anyway, that was kind of fun designing a bioengineering project on this thing. It's the only wet spot on the whole slope. And so we got things to grow. We actually designed some soaker hose in here, and we had a line going up to the top. And let me go fast forward to it. We take these big 3,500-pound livets, you know, we got from the fire warehouse, 2 of those. And we take a Mark III pump at the base of the bottom of the river and pump water all the way to the top of this thing and fill these things up. And then we run these hoses down to drip irrigation system. And then we find those individual bonsai trees, along with everything else we planted. We put shade cards on it, and we put spaghetti hose and a little dripper thing to each plant. And we fill that with water. Fill this with water and do drip irrigation through the summertime, just to kind of get them through the survival period. And so the shade cards are really awesome. They lasted for like 5-6 years. And so we started shade carding and getting any kind of vegetation established as we can, and just multiple. You see how those leaves now they're starting to get some growth, and still using shade cards. Shade cards, the hot, dry sun really makes a big difference. You know, keeping those things alive through the hot part of the day, and this is pretty denuded soap, really exposed. And so over time, that's when the fence first got built, we were able to get planting going. We got our drip irrigation system going, and we're just now starting to get things kind of grow. We got our middle, we got our brush. You know, this is actually getting a little brushy right here, which is cool. Our trees are getting bigger. You can see up here. We still have these two big exposed areas here, and now we put the road up top here and abandon this lower road. See all the changes over time? It's kind of cool. And these things really start keep growing, right? You know, and so we at this point we can abandon our drip irrigation lines. They only have a lifespan of about 3 seasons, but we got it through the survival period of the plants. And then and just basically mulch as often as we could, you know, with the biosol makes a difference, or multiple mulchings. Then we ended up going back and retreating that hard slope, actually bringing that down the angle of the post, and building another grid structure, remember that? And then we hydro-compost inside this thing to actually add nutrients. And then planted things like roses and things like that. So over time, we were able to get vegetation to grow. These are growing, and lots of hydro mulching, a lot of fun stuff there. And and it's okay for it to break down. That's just sediment storage. It's natural material, it's long-term nutrient recycling. So, and then we plant deep-rooted vegetation. And so look at our plants now. They've grown a little bit. Now this is still an old photo. This is what, maybe 2003? And we had these plants grown? About 10 years of work on it. You know, just over time, over seasons. We're going in this year, this is the last year of the fence. The fence has been down for a long time. The whole side fell down. We were just going to, as it dilapidates, we're going to just pick up the wire and clean it up. We're going to pull the last of the wire this year. There's no need for the wire. One, the wolf makes a difference. Wolf, there's no 300 head of work running around Rig Ranch right now. 300 head of, I would see like, 100 head, all just denuding a spot. You know? You don't see that anymore after wolf introduction. You see little groups of 20. But anyway, we're at a point where we need to thin this now. We need to thin in order to get these trees a little bigger. So that's just that. Now this is a 2000, I think that's a 2007 or 8 photo, but that is our brush layer area. And this is, there's aspens growing in here and stuff, really taking up a lot of that subsurface flow and stuff. But that's kind of that was our brush layer mattress stuff. It's pretty fun to see. Most of the trees are bigger than this now, but they're this size, and they're pretty good density now. So we have to, like I said, kind of have to thin that now. So anyway, just a kind of fun little case study. So that's what it used to be. Yeah. All right.
Don't you feel like the creator?
I know, it's not. I love my job, by the way. I do have one of the best jobs in the force. So I don't have to do these.
It's so awesome to see all this. We hear so many bad things, so it's really nice to see the good things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's cool. So this forest has adopted our crew. We're really unique that way. In order to have to concentrate on implementation, revegetation, these projects, and concentrate on getting them right, and learning from the past and stuff. So we've been lucky that way. And we have a lot of good, skilled people, those operators and stuff that know how to do that. So a lot of investment into that. But I think it's fun, and I'll keep doing it for a while. I'm not going anywhere. They had to drag me out kicking and screaming.
So as volunteers, as an aging group.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like working with the scouts and things. I mean, you got such enthusiasm. And then a lot of Boise troops that really want to come up with new projects. And we just formed our troop here in town. I have 12 boys that are registered. And man, we've been going out southward the past 2 weekends. Well, last weekend and the weekend, 2 weekends before that, we've been going out southward and cleaning up fishing trash along the river. It's amazing. We were out there in the rain last time, and the boys had a blast. They picked up, we get like 4 construction bags full of garbage from fishing trash, cans and bottles and fishing line and things like that. And it's unfortunate, they did have some volunteer projects to clean up after the season, but you got all that vegetation, you can't kind of hide that stuff. So you go out this time of year, nothing's staked out, you can see it a lot better and get to it. Ticks every now and then, but the boys did great. So we were past 2 years, the past two campouts, we go 2 nights out and pick up garbage. But then the boys were so cold and wet, we let them sit in 16 hot springs and
Yeah.
warm it up, you know. But yeah, some of these guys have never hardly camped before, so that's kind of fun to work with. Yeah, yeah. Good
Good
times.
presentation.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you.
All right.
So if you have volunteer jobs for older volunteers,
Well,
we're good at supervision.
that's good, you know, we get a lot of, it's good to have that kind of oversight with a lot of youth, you know. And I think they can get, you know, quite a few, but it needs that oversight.
Yeah.
Age and
That's
wisdom,
what-
how to handle a shovel, you know? How do you just do that, you know? It's kinda neat.
What's the impact of cattle raising out here?
I didn't go off on them, but I can.
You could, right?
What's
But
you know,
Thursday,
mushrooms,
mushrooms,
impact is huge,
just in
especially
time,
on our
Pepper Rail
horse
yesterday.
racing
Oh, you do not
Um,
telling you. I'll tell you, hazard group. Okay, but it's,
Not good.
Yeah, is this running? No, I'm just kidding.
well, it's pretty good.
That's a real tiger.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is.
No, I know, well, no, actually, it's not one that I know.
Thank
You
you.
know,
It's the biggest one too.
I think
Hey,
we should
I knew that.
they were
Marty was
cute.
the one that spotted those cars. I walked right